Welcome, everybody. I am here with yet another interview with an interesting person and a specialist who is able to help us to transcend what we think is possible for us when we are trying to do the meaningful work. And who's here with me, and I'm totally going to butcher it because my French is abysmal, is Cedric Bertelli.
Parfait.
And
Perfect.
he does a very interesting work that I'm going to let him introduce. So Cedric, we worked together for a little while. You helped me with some stuff, and we're going to get into that. But how would you introduce yourself when your friends ask you what you do, when strangers ask you what the hell you do? What's your answer?
My daughter asks me that all the time. Too. So what the hell do you do? You're asking people what's going on in their body, and then what else do you do? Basically, what I do is I help people to resolve disruptive emotional pattern. Any emotional difficulties that come back, such as stress, anxiety, the effect of trauma, anger, all those emotions that keeps on coming back in people's life are emotion that can be resolved, that can be released. And that's what I do with people. So I work with clients, and I also teach therapists, coaches, doctors, and other professionals how to do this work with their patients or their clients.
Okay, that sounds to me a little bit like, psychiatric psychology work. So does that mean that what you do is mainly relevant for people who suffer some mental issues or have diagnosed disorders? How is that relevant for the majority of population?
Well, that's a great question. I actually work with the majority of the population, people like you and I, who have stress and anxiety. It's I don't want to say it's the opposite of psychiatry or psychology, but almost in the sense that as you experience yourself, we don't really work with the cognitive. My work is based on how the brain constructs emotions, and from this understanding, how the brain can deconstruct or release emotional difficulties. So my work is very much through what we call interoception, the physical sensations present in the body during an emotion. So if anything, this work is more somatic than cognitive. Um, we work with the body much more than with the cognitive, the intellect.
Mhm. So I've seen you at work, so I already know a little bit what it means. But we are still talking to people who may not know you, although
Yes.
I'm sure you're famous in your circles. So uh, what exactly are you just bringing to the table for people who maybe think they just want to improve the way they perform? They want to be more productive at work. They want to really up their game. How can you help them?
Absolutely, that's a great question. Uh, Usually, when we feel like we need to improve, is because there is a stress or a blockage. Every time we have to put effort to control ourselves, to control our performances, and something like this, most of the time we have to go through some fears, go through some blockages, and uh, push ourselves into doing something greater than we feel that we can. So, of course, it's important to work hard and to improve ourselves and always push ourselves. But most of the time, when there is stress or anxiety or self-doubt or lack of self-confidence, it makes this improvement more challenging. My job with people who want to improve themselves is to release the fears, the blockages, the stress that prevent them to be their best them, that prevent them to move as fast and as deep as they actually can. Uh, my work in a nutshell is quite simple. Can I explain it a little bit, maybe?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Please, I'm begging for that from the start, trying to tackle it from different angles.
I think I just realized it now. Like, oh, I know where I should go. Um, you see, every one of our emotional difficulties or tensions, even or anxiety, we understand today that it's an obsolete prediction from the brain. Uh, Our brain, one of the big job of our brain is to predict. Our brain constantly predict based on past experiences. On our daily basis, we are updating predictions. That's how we learn, right? We face a situation, we learn how to handle it, and now we integrate that so we are better, we better prepare for the next one. So all day long, we are updating old predictions. The update happens when the cognitive and the body are in sync. Basically, when you're conscious as you are living an experience. Then you learn and you integrate. Uh, the prediction you can see for anything in life, we predict basically everything. If you're about to have an apple, for example, and about to bite an apple, you realize that before biting the apple, your brain, your body is already predicting the experience that you're about to live.
Got it.
Before,
And if
you
I
see what I
remember,
mean?
that's because our brain is trying to keep us safe and, safe from harm. So
Absolutely.
whatever might smell like danger, our brain is trying to predict and kind of save us from it.
That's absolutely correct. The brain constantly predict to keep us at flow and to keep us safe. Now, the prediction happen normally, or the update of the prediction happen normally when the cognitive is present with the body. Now, we know that at the origin of every one of our emotional difficulty, stress, anger, anything, at the origin is always the same kind of event. It is always a moment of very intense stress, physical stress or emotional stress. Some people in some circle will call that a trauma. So they will say that the origin of every single one of our disruptive emotional pattern is a trauma. Now, I don't like to use the word trauma very much because what you and I as adults consider as a trauma is different from what a baby who is 1 day old, 1 week old, or 1 year old consider or live as a very intense stress. Now, what I call a moment of very intense stress or trauma is a moment that is too stressful for the body to hold. And that depends of our age, of our environment, and of our personality as well. At the same age, something can be very stressful for you and not so stressful for me, and vice versa. But at the origin of every single one of our pattern is a moment of very intense stress. What is happening during the very intense stress? What's happening is that the cognitive is shutting down. When the stress is too high for us to intake, there is a normal, natural defense mechanism that is happening, and it is our cognitive mind, so to speak, disconnect. We call that a dissociation. A dissociation can take maybe half a second or 1 second or longer. But there is a moment during this stress when the cognitive is not in sync with the body anymore.
Okay, Cedric, is that the same as the so-called emotional hijack, when I just can't see clearly and I feel like I can't really control what I'm doing when I'm sending these angry emails, snapping on people? Is that the same thing?
No, that's the hijack is a consequence of this first trauma.
Mm-hmm.
The hijack that you're just referring is your body for some reason feeling in danger and having a reaction to protect you. So what you're just referring to, and that's very interesting, is the consequence of what I'm talking about.
Okay, so let's get back to you, and then we see how it ties in.
Super. So just a couple data. What you and I right now we are aware of, that's about 2,000 bits of data per second. That's what the cognitive brain is capturing, what we are aware of. And the numbers varies when you look at different studies. It's just an average number, 2,000 bits of information per second. That's what we are aware of. The subconscious mind gathers and manages about 400 billion bits of information per second.
I have to say, Cedric, we are doing this interview online, so maybe my bandwidth is not even that high to capture all that you are sending my way right now, but I'm taking the most of it. Thank you. I'm with you.
I think you can take it. But the thing is, when we have these moments of dissociation and the cognitive mind is shutting down, the subconscious mind is taking over. And the subconscious mind is going to record, capture all the elements that are captured by the five senses: what you smell, what you taste, what you sense, the temperature of the room, what you hear. And the subconscious mind is also going to record the physical sensations that we are feeling during this moment of very high stress.
Okay, so if I get it right, that means if I'm going through a stressful event, for example, I'm getting dumped by a girlfriend, I kind of imprint in my memory everything that happens in the surrounding, and I will kind of recall the smells or the cars that were passing by at the moment from this stressful event. Is that right?
That's correct. If it is so stressful that you can take it. I think that if a girlfriend dump us, it will be painful, but I don't think it will be considering that as a trauma, except if maybe the girlfriend is being very abusive and manipulative and create a lot of stress in us. Eventually, that can be considered as a trauma. But for us adults, when we're being dumped, so to speak, except if we have that resonate with a past experience that was traumatic, we will recover from this breakup. Does that make sense?
Well, now I see how relative this could be. I think I would be really traumatized by such an event, but you're much more resilient person than I am in this respect. So let's see what would be such a trauma.
It would be, for example, well, it can be when you come out from the womb, for example.
Okay.
Extremely stressful for the body. The birth act, but also coming out to the world. It can be being abused by a parent. It can be being beaten by a friend. It can be being ignored by a parent. It can be, if you're really young, being too hot, too cold. Later on in life, it can be being bullied by kids at school, or being in very stressful situations, maybe in in school, in dormitory school. How do you call that? When you go, you don't sleep at home anymore, but you sleep in the school, boarding school.
I don't know how you call that, Cedric, but you're describing all my traumas as they started since I came to this world. Seems you know me so well.
So I think we probably have some of the same one. It can be a fall. Let's say you fall on a bike and you hit your head. It can be many things. And again, a different event will impact us differently depending of our maturity and our environment. So these kind of trauma, and they start very early. There is a study which was very interesting. I forgot the name of the researcher, that shows that we were born 12 months too early. Basically, human gestation should be 21 months. That means that we finish our gestation outside of the womb.
Oh, I'm pretty sure, Cedric, many mothers would not agree with you, and mothers-to-be especially.
Yes, and still, we are the only species who cannot do anything for a whole year after we're out of the womb. Like a little dog is born blind, but can still find his or her mother and find the milk. A horse will walk right at birth. So is a goat, so is an elephant. We cannot do anything. We are extremely vulnerable during this first year. Everything is a matter of life or death, so to speak. And a parent cannot be here all the time. They just can't. I mean, it's impossible to be there even before the need of the child. So the first year holds a lot of very stressful event for a baby, in a different way than you and I see it, of course. But to go back to my demonstration from earlier, if I may.
Absolutely.
So we leave these traumas, right? Traumas happen, cognitive disconnect, subconscious records everything, what's happening from outside, what's happening from inside, in a very disorganized way. There is not the cognitive to organize things, so the subconscious just takes things, a smell, a silhouette, a temperature, a texture, just things. Now, what is happening is, after the trauma is passed, once the body finds itself in a situation when it recognizes one or several elements, present during one of our trauma. Our subconscious mind is going to predict what physical sensations you're about to feel based on what was felt the day of the trauma. Exactly like your mind is predicting what experience you're about to have when you bite your apple, when the brain finds itself in a situation when it recognizes one element that was present during a danger, it is going to predict, anticipate what are the physical sensations that you're about to feel, and it is going to generate them. You and I, and everybody else in the world, knows that we're feeling an emotional difficulty because we're feeling physical sensations. That's how we know that we feel an emotion. An emotion always starts with physical sensations. Those physical sensations is a prediction from the brain based on a past experience when they were actually present. So every time we're feeling an emotional difficulty is an obsolete prediction from the brain, is an information that did not have a chance to be integrated and learned from. My job is to help people to integrate this information so that the brain realizes that the elements, the stimuli that was creating this prediction nowadays is harmless. Nothing is going to happen to you. Nowadays, you can stay present with whatever was taken as a stimulus, and you are safe and sound. Nothing bad is about to happen to you, and nothing bad will happen to you. Here, I think it was a lot of words. I apologize.
No, actually, I think we are getting there. This is very concise to me. So, I'd I'd like to offer a few examples from my own life, and maybe you can explain to our listeners or viewers how that fits in. So let's start small. So this month I took on like 30 days challenge to take cold showers only, and
Good.
oh well, it's day 3, and I'm already so going to the bathroom in the morning. It's I have this resistance, right? So I would say this is an emotion because I can predict the physical sensations. But you said it's always the emotion starts with a sensation. So is it me having the memory of cold shower, which is like, predicting the taste of the apple that I'm about to bite into? How does this relate, and why the resistance, and what to do with that?
Well, that's a great question. Just by the way, I take cold showers every morning, and it's one of the best things I've done because. So that's a great example, Alesh. Back in the day, I was afraid to put my body into a cold body of water. I live in San Francisco, so I will never go into the ocean. Because every time, first of all, I was anticipating the cold, so I was already tensing. And then when I was putting my foot in the water, I was tensing as well. So there's nothing enjoyable about it. You're all tense, all you want is come out. So what you can do is, or what I did is, when I feel the anticipation coming and I don't want to, you stop right there. You just close your eyes and feel where the tension is in your body. Maybe it's on your shoulder, your belly, I don't know. Just pay attention to the sensation that makes you realize that you are getting tense. And once you pay attention to those sensations, you do nothing. You just stay connected to the sensations, showing your body that you can stay with those tensions and nothing is happening. Very quickly, your tensions are going to go away. And you can move on. By doing this simple thing here, this first anticipatory anxiety will not happen tomorrow morning. Because you show your brain that at this moment, as you are anticipating and the tension are happening, nothing is going on. Mm-hmm. You're safe. So you get into, so tomorrow morning, you go to take your shower and you don't feel tense before. Now, when you turn the shower, maybe when the shower hits, you tense. At this point, if you tense, turn off the shower. And again, just stay with your physical sensations. Do nothing. Don't breathe heavily. Don't try to cover yourself. No, you stay with your physical sensation, you feel them, and you let them change. Also showing your brain that the cold is actually not a danger. It is very simple, but very quickly you will get into your shower without being tense before and without being too tense when the shower touches you. I remember the beginning when I was taking cold shower, when it was hitting me, it was like a truck was hitting me, a train. It was like, ah. Now it's not so much. I crave it, actually. I crave the cold.
Okay. It's like a small passenger car only.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's horrible. I'm trying to learn French, Cedric, and the fact that you call it le voiture,
La voiture.
that's insane. You should call it auto, as you did in the 50s, I've heard.
No, but too. Yes, that's true. That's true. It's simpler. But voiture is very French. Right? It's all the sound that we make. Heureux.
All the sounds I cannot emulate. Yeah. So now I'm already feeling in my body the resistance to my next French class.
Oh, please call me. I help you.
Yeah, maybe. Let's dig a little deeper, because what you're describing with the shower as an example. I know we did some work together when we addressed similar tense and similar fear that I had and still have around some work events, dealing with my emails, this feeling overwhelmed, going into certain work calls with stakeholders when I'm afraid how I'm gonna show up and how they're gonna react. So would you say that all of these principles relating to the body clenching, getting tense, and this emotional disconnect from what's really happening, is that a universal principle that could be applied to any situation that we perceive as difficult?
Yes, absolutely. As long as the physical reaction, as long as the emotion is not congruent with what is actually happening in our life. You see, it's not because you do emotional resolution and when you work on it together that you don't feel an emotion anymore. It's not because you do MRES that you're going to stop feeling emotions. No, to the contrary, in the sense that we are going to the more resolutions we do on our fears, the more resolutions we do on our tension, our stress, our anger, the more we're going to become in tune with what is actually happening in our life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, the emotion that we feel, the anxiety, the stress, is not congruent with what we're living now. We are being stressed because of something that happened in the past or because of something that we're anticipating is going to come in the future. But right now, actually, there is no danger. Very often, the emotional difficulties we feel are stealing our actual experience. Very often, because of our obsolete prediction, we are missing the emotions held by what we are living now. If I am in a date with a girl, and let's say it's date number 3, and I'm driving her home, and there's a moment when she leaves the car where I feel like we both feel it would be perfect to hug and kiss. If I am attuned to what's happening now, I feel excited, I feel connected, I feel in relationship, and I feel happy, and I will kiss this girl, for example. But if my brain is freaking out when I see that it's the right moment to take her in my arm, if my brain is freaking out based on a past experience, and all I think is she gonna like me? Is that the right moment? And I'm stressed, I'm anxious. I am completely missing what I'm living now with this woman. I am stuck in the past. That's not normal, and that's not fair for me or for her. So this can be resolved. So I can be present with what's happening now, the connection. Same thing if I'm afraid of height. If I'm afraid of height and I come to the edge of a cliff and I'm so scared because of my fear of height, I will not be able to enjoy the view. I will not be present with what is actually happening with me, for me. I will be taken by my fear. It is not congruent. For all this, we can resolve the fear. And a lot of things, a lot of time we feel anxiety or stress or fear, right then, at that moment, there is no reason to feel it. Now, I'm not saying there is never danger, but if you have fear based on a past experience in a moment of actual danger, you will not be able to defend yourself as well as if you're just present with the danger, feeling the emotion brought by the actual situation that we're living. It's about tuning into what's happening now. So we are present.
Okay.
Is that clear?
It's well, it is clear to me because we did some work on that, and I'll get to that. So as kind of a bridge for our listeners, it seems that what you're suggesting and what you are offering as a solution is very counterintuitive. And it's what we normally do, and what is normally even recommended in all those self-help articles, books, wherever, is, oh, you just need to distract yourself from the bad emotion. Just picture the people you are afraid of in their underwear, so to kind of ease the tension, or think about something positive instead. Basically, escape the emotion. And this is a prevalent advice. So is this all wrong?
In my view, I hate the word "in my experience," but I'm going to say it anyway. In my experience, yes, it's all wrong. Plus, if I may say, there's some people you can imagine in their underwear, and that's even scarier than what you were about to live. But yes, you're right. From the moment we are very young, we are being taught to deal with our emotion. Take some deep breath. Imagine this. Positive thinking. Go to yoga. Meditate. Eat better. And then we switch things. We go to the gym to cope. We run. We watch porn. For some of us, we smoke pot. We have a glass of wine. All this are to cope with the emotions, exactly like you describe it, so we don't feel it anymore. Now, the problem is, in my view, every time we're doing that, we are reinforcing the message to the brain that we're facing a danger. The brain is thinking, okay, if he controls, it must be because there is a danger. If we do something to deal with our emotion, or to deal with what we see create the emotion, it must be because there is a danger, so the prediction keeps on coming back. So we control again, and it comes back. So we control again, etc., etc. Reinforcing the prediction, when actually what we need to do is, when we feel this emotion, to not deny it, to not control it, to not try to understand why we're feeling that, but to surrender to what is happening in us. So the brain can really see that you can be with this prediction, be with the prediction without any kind of effort or control, and still, at the end of the prediction, well, guess what? Nothing happened. The prediction was wrong. From that very moment, the prediction will be updated forever, until the body is proved wrong eventually in the future. Does that make sense?
It does, because I tried it. It seemed to work, and I think we're gonna get a little bit into the method itself. Before we get, you actually led me to one more question. We are kind of moving across the bridge of the traditional thinking, or the predominant thinking. So you just addressed the advice to kind of move away and try to outplace the emotion with something, let's say, positive, something cheerier. But you also said, do not try to understand, just be with it. And This is another kind of prevalent approach, um, and I am guilty of that. I'm over analyzing. Different people told me in different times, yeah, you are overthinking everything. But this is often also recommended to us. Try to understand what is the root cause, what is the source, what is actually happening. So analyze it. Go to psycho or whatever analyst and understand the origin of it, and it will set you free. So you would say that even this is not the right approach?
I will say that some people need to understand. Some humans need to understand. They have this need to understand why they feel that way. And until they do not, until they don't understand it, they will not be willing, so to speak, to let go of the emotion. So there is often a human inner need to understand. Once an emotion is understood, it will not get the emotion to go away. You might feel better about it. You might feel more at peace with it, but the emotional reaction will remain in you even if you understand where it's coming from. The prediction will remain the same until the prediction is updated through the body. And sometimes during a psychotherapy session, when the psychotherapist is very present and with the client, and the client can express something, and the body has a reaction, and the therapist can just hold the space and just the client not control the reaction, and the body do its work. Yeah, the body will do its work by itself, and it can work, but not because of the understanding, because of the resilience that the brain has to, when you're in a good environment and you don't control the body will update by itself. But understanding an emotion or understanding where an emotion comes from will never resolve or release the emotion. So, and often, to be honest, the bridge that we create cognitively to why we're feeling a certain way is very limiting. A lot of our emotions are created in such early stages in our life that we have no memory of what created the emotion. So we look for a reason. Sometimes we find it, and sometimes that's the right reason. Sometimes it's completely wrong. It just makes us feel better. But to resolve the emotion, it has to go through the body. That's the thing about doing the Emotional Health Institute, which is the company I created a few years ago. We work with doctors, but also with veterinarians and ethologists, meaning that we work with people who do this work with farm animals. It sounds crazy, but with cows and horses and ponies. The thing with a cow is afraid of something. Let's say a cow is afraid of a rabbit. So the cow is afraid of a rabbit, and let's say we do a resolution with the cow. The cow is not afraid of rabbits anymore. She's just fine. That's it. That's one fear. Now, when a human is afraid of a rabbit, the human is going to be afraid of the rabbit. Then it's going to be a shame to be afraid of rabbits. He might go in psychotherapy to find out why he's afraid of rabbit, and might find out that his father killed a rabbit in front of him. So now he builds resentment toward his father. Then he starts to hate rabbits and become a hunter, start to kill rabbits, and now develop a guilt about being a hunter. So for one fear of rabbit, this human being created 5 or 6 rippling emotions. That's the beauty, so to speak, of human beings. We create emotions upon emotions. And then we need to resolve those emotions that we create for ourselves.
So let's I mean that's very deep in a way, and you get me thinking now. So and I don't want to spend this very expensive airtime on YouTube or whatever platform you're going to use it for me just thinking and doing so let's talk a little bit about how you actually work with the people that you are helping. you mentioned like being with the emotions, and doing nothing. Um,
Yeah,
and how is this actually helping?
yeah. It's the key to emotional health is to do nothing, which, as you said earlier, Alesh, is completely counterintuitive and countercurrent of everything or a lot of things that is out there, maybe except Zen. I think you work with Zen. Am I correct?
Oh, well, I'm
Because
aspiring in a way. I don't work. I prefer to do nothing, as you advised me.
yeah, that's exactly it. So how do I work with client, or how any practitioner would do this work with client? We work on Zoom most of the time because of the pandemic and because it's easier. And what we will do is we will trick the brain to believe that the body is facing a danger. We will use a past memory, for example. And the body will generate what we call interoception, generate physical sensation, the physical sensation that comes before an emotion or with an emotion. Once the clients feel the sensations, my job is going to try to guide the client to do nothing, to not take some deep breath, to not think, to just be present with the sensations without impacting them whatsoever, which sounds simple, but it is not easy for human beings. It's very difficult for any human beings to do nothing. Often we are thinking, we're trying to control one way or another. Thinking is a way to control.
And the deep
So,
breath is another. I mean, I
oh,
realize that there's this comment, take a deep breath and, count to 6 and do all this stuff.
absolutely. Taking deep breath, stretching, all this stuff are ways to release tension that we feel, to control the emotion, to control the sensations. We spend our life doing that. So my job is to help the client into a space of doing nothing and just let the body do its work. Just let the body do its work. Every time an emotion comes back is because we prevent the body to do this natural thing that it can do. And actually, animals, wild animals, do not hold on to trauma like we do because they have the space and the time to process the trauma. Now, farm animals and domestic animals, such as dogs and cats, most dogs actually, hold on to trauma, hold on to fears, much more than wild animals, because of us, because of human beings, because we do not let them the opportunity to feel what's happening in their body, to live what's happening in their body. We are trying to control them, to make them feel better. And we do that with our babies too. When a baby is crying, when a baby has a reaction, we rush to try to control it. When there's a study coming out from France by Boris Cyrulnik, who is a neuroscientist, psychiatrist, is in his 80s now. Beautiful, beautiful work that he does. He works on resilience. And he explained that for the human body to be resilient, to learn from experiences, what is most important is the environment. If a child is close to an adult who is loving and present as he's going through an emotion, the child will build resilience. He or she will learn from this event, which is very different from the adult trying to fix or calm the child right there. Anyway,
So
I went through a different road here. I apologize. I went on a different wavelength.
no, it's not necessarily actually, because now we are moving into the space where maybe we want to support our loved ones. Maybe children, maybe friends, whoever. And what you described it's a natural response. If someone is suffering, you want to offer consolation, you want to offer comfort. So how would the approach you described, how would it manifest? What does that mean to kind of hold the space for the child or for someone who's suffering without intervening?
For a child, for example, it will be to just be with the child and listen and be there for them without if the child is very upset, for example, if the child is throwing a tantrum, not scream at the child and leave or send them in their room, say you come back when you're quiet, but to be there while the child, and I'm not saying it's easy, huh? But be there while the child is having a meltdown. Just be there. Be there, be present. And I'm not saying not to take a child in your arm. Take a child in your arm is fantastic, you know. Or if you have a good friend who is in pain, of course, like be present, be there for them. Absolutely. Just presence and love really is what is the most healing in the moment that the emotion happen.
Hmm. And okay, but help me understand this. Is that you are suggesting not to go for distractions, not to go for drugs, not to go for anything that would take you away from the emotion, but just hugging a child, which is a natural response. I'm giving them this oxytocin shot. Isn't that the same like giving them like a piece of chocolate to quiet them down, or giving them toy?
You mean when you take them in your arms?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I think it depends on the situation. It depends also on the emotion that the child is living. There is no magic recipe, I think. We have to tune into what's happening for the child. And if it's a tantrum and the child is really upset, maybe it's just staying there with him and sit down with him while he's upset and just listening to him. If the child needs to feel safer, well, stay. If the child is afraid of a danger, be with them. Maybe get very close and put your hand on him and just face the danger together so the child can experience the danger without you trying to fix anything. Of course, a child needs support in going through their fears, but the key, I think, is to not control the child reaction because we are triggered by it. You know, we teach a lot we were teaching before the shelter in place in schools here in San Francisco. And we were teaching teachers how to do this work with kids. And we noticed that the only time the teachers were applying what we were teaching was when they were disturbed by the child reaction. They will never do emotional resolution on a child who was shy, who was shut down, who was anxious, who was afraid. No, no, they will never do that because the child behavior wasn't impacting them or the classroom. Now, the only time they were trying to do what we were teaching them is when the child was over the top, angry, acting out, but it's too late. When the child is throwing a tantrum, often it's because of an accumulation of small stresses that we did not attend as an adult because we were not disturbed by them. We will go into action often because we are impacted by their reaction. So we do something so we can feel better, of course, to make them feel better, but at the end of the day, so we can feel better and back at peace again. So there is a balance there.
No, it sounds very persuasive, and I know you're expecting another addition to your lovely family. So
Yes,
I think
yes.
we should do a follow up in a couple of months when I'm going to see you with these black stained eyes.
Shaking a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, but it sounds very inspiring. So. What I'd like to do is I have like two more questions, and before we're gonna close. So the first one is really tied to my experience while working with you, and this is of course this just the fact we talk is a recommendation to anyone who's listening or watching to look you up.
Thank you.
I just wanted to. I was really surprised when you asked me to kind of stay with the emotion and do nothing. I was surprised how relative the perception of time is, because what took just seconds or minutes, it felt like eternity. Being with these unpleasant sensations was really hard. I felt really like escaping. Is that normal for everybody? Is that something that this warped time perception that we all experience, and would you know why?
Yeah, it is common. It is common because your subconscious mind it's very counterintuitive. You said it so well earlier. Your subconscious mind is predicting that there is a danger right there. So there is every cell of your body, not every muscle, but a lot of your muscle are tense, ready for action, fight, flight, or freeze. They're ready for action. And we're not going, when we do an MRES, we're not going to go into action. We're just going to stay with the emotion. So it feels forever because there is a part of you who wants to do something. A part of you is like, if I don't move now, I'm going to be dead. Literally, it comes down to that. And I'm inviting you to just be there, to wait for death. The part of you that creates the emotion doesn't know that death is not coming. Okay, there's a part of you, a very powerful part of you, your subconscious mind, that is expecting a life-threatening danger, which in your real life right now is maybe an email. But remember, the subconscious mind doesn't realize that. It just takes elements that don't make any sense. So your subconscious mind is bracing itself for a life-threatening danger, and I'm inviting you to just stay there. To stay there until the subconscious mind realizes that, wow, nothing happens. It doesn't take very long. It takes minutes for the subconscious mind to realize that and see that nothing is happening. But that very moment is a moment where you're bracing yourself. I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but to face death. Because what you see as an email is not what your subconscious mind is expecting, or something else. I take an email as an example. But so yeah, it takes forever. You're right. It feels like it might feel like it takes forever sometimes.
Thank you, Cedric. It's brilliant because you actually answered the bigger part of my last question I wanted to ask. So I wanted to ask you to offer us something like a small practice, like a taste, something that we can all try implementing into our life to improve in this area. What would it be?
Absolutely. Well, it is something quite simple, but not easy, I think, which is when we feel an emotion, when there is something, it doesn't matter what it is or where it's coming from, but we feel something, we're in a funk, anxious, stress, to stop what we're doing, stop, close our eyes if we can, and to pay attention to where the sensations are in our body. Paying attention to where the sensations are is helpful so the brain doesn't do anything else. Don't try to control or understand. We give food for the brain to do. So you feel an emotion, stop what you're doing, close your eyes if you're safe, and pay attention to sensations in your body, and just keep on feeling the sensations consciously as long as the sensations are there. It will never take longer than 2 minutes. It might feel longer, but if you don't do anything to calm, to take a breath, if you just let the body do the cycle that it's supposed to do, it will not take longer than 2 minutes. So my recommendation, you feel an emotion, doesn't matter what it is, it's just uncomfortable. You stop, you close your eyes if you're safe. You pay attention to sensations in your body, several sensations at once, it's important. And you keep on feeling those sensations. You see that they're gonna move and change texture, change intensity. Keep on feeling that consciously until the sensations abate. If you do that without any kind of control, your prediction, what was created this emotion, will be updated. And next time you be in a similar situation, you will not feel the same way.
Thank you, Cedric. And
my pleasure.
I believe this is going to be helpful for all the people who are listening to this, as it was to me. And always a pleasure talking to you.
Same here.
I'm sure we will be in touch in the future. I'm definitely gonna check on you once you have the newly born to see how you're doing. But thank you for this time, and I wish you the best to the rest of your day and week, month, whenever before we speak. And I also want to thank to everyone who was listening or watching us. And we'll be back with more interesting content and more intriguing guests in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anish. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. See you soon.